Hey there, it's Steve from Serious Keto, and this video will be part 2 of the interview slash co-podcast I did with Dennis from Black Tie Kitchen. If you haven't seen part 1, I will link to it right up here. Also, as with part 1, there are some occasional audio sync issues, so just be prepared for that. And also stick around to the end for an important announcement. But now, let's continue right where we left off. Are you at liberty to talk about what's next? What you're working on currently, or are you keeping it under wraps?
Oh, I'm fine talking about it.
Okay. I mean, what's the next path, the next step on the Holy Grail, or to the Holy Grail?
On the Holy Grail, or just like the next recipe I'm working on?
Well, so the next one isn't one of your other Holy Grails?
Oh, well, yeah, it's the French fry.
Okay.
I tried the heavenly fries, and I think they're good, but they're limited by the fact that they're vegan, which to us non-vegan people means it's a world of possibilities. And I think I'm really close.
I think just cooking them up in tallow would be a big first step.
Yeah, that's
kind of harken back to the McDonald's French fries of the 70s and 80s.
Yeah, and the funny thing is there's a lot of the sort of the mashed potato flavors and stuff, but a lot of the tests that I've done, you don't even need that. It's really just more about the texture and the crunch from what I can tell. I mean, potatoes are pretty bland for the most part.
I actually had a real French fry last night. I grabbed one. Yeah, I know. They're burn
him.
My keto card's going to be revoked. Burn him.
Was it at least a good French fry, or was it a sad, soggy one?
Well, it was like an Ore-Ida crispy one. No, it was crispy.
Oh, those are good.
With the ridges. But I had it, and it's like so many of the pre-keto foods that I've snacked on periodically. I'm just like, I recall these tasting way better. I think, at least for me, after 2 years of being on keto, over 2 years, my palate has just changed. And I think a lot of the things that used to trigger whatever thing in your brain is that keeps you eating, I don't have that anymore on some of these, starchy and sweet products. They're not what I remember them to be. So I agree with you on it is. I think it is more of the texture, and they become a bit of a delivery mechanism for something, whether that something is salt or ketchup or whatever sauce you're dunking them into.
Yeah, because that was the thing too, is on their own they're not great, but you dunk them in ketchup and like, oh, this tastes like a French fry, but he still doesn't have that right crisp, and I think that's the key to it. But
the keto it?
The key to it, yeah. But you're saying that your palate definitely changes. I mean, I don't know if you've ever been sort of a soda addict, but you give up soda for a month and you come back and like, oh, this is just unbelievably sweet. Ugh, and you can't drink it 3 sodas later. Like, oh yeah, this is not that sweet. Your palate is so easy to change.
So my wife, I've managed. I mean, she's a total carb addict, and used to be a Pepsi drinker. And whenever I'd go to the store, she'd say, "Pick me up some Pepsi." And I just felt like such an enabler. And I'm like, could we at least work our way to like Pepsi Zero or whatever it's called? This, the black can stuff. And so she's on that now. And maybe at some point I buy a Soda Stream or something like that, and I just put in some cola flavored stevia. But I had a sip of one of these Pepsi Zeros, and just about threw up at how sweet it was. It was so unbelievably sweet. I felt it in my veins. That's weird.
That's a diet soda.
Yes.
Imagine drinking something like a diet or a Mountain Dew, which is 45 grams of sugar per can. That's a lot of sugar.
And back in high school, I drank 6 cans of Mountain Dew a day.
2 liters in an hour, all sorts of stuff. Yeah, I mean, we used to have like LAN parties and stuff in high school. We'd sit there all night. I remember buying 20-something liters of soda for 5 people. And we'd drink it all. And
just playing Doom or something?
Yeah, we'd be playing Counter-Strike and that sort of shit.
All right. Oh, so I went back. My LAN party went back before your LAN party.
A little bit. A couple of years. Not too much, but a little bit. Yeah, that's crazy. Well, I think it's crazy how much it changes.
That could probably be a future podcast topic, just sort of how did you used to eat before you went keto? And I think a lot of people, when they hear it, are either going to cringe or say, oh yeah, me too.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's how I kind of realized I had a problem with food. Was just all this stuff. I used to say I lift so I can eat. Because like, oh, wait, you mean like as a power lifter, I can lift really heavy things and work out, and then go eat three pizza pies and not gain weight? Yeah, sign me up. I'm in. I'm totally in. I'm totally in. That sounds like a win-win situation. Like, why would I not do that? And obviously, you learn eventually like that's a seriously unhealthy thing to do.
Well, and I've seen studies that talk about how lots of times, when you're talking about losing weight, don't think in terms of exercise. You got to be thinking in terms of what you're putting in your head hole, because you can't outrun your mouth. And very often when people then do start getting into exercise and think exercise is the way, then they feel that they can reward themselves, with the pizza or the Taco Bell 10-pack, thinking, all right, I earned this. I burnt off a bunch of, calories here, so it's okay. It'll turn into muscle.
Much, we had a good workout today. Let's go celebrate and just go eat burgers and pizza and drink beer. And
yep, need to rehydrate with some beer.
Yeah, I need protein. It's ridiculous when you think about it, but I mean that's so prevalent in those communities, at least like bodybuilding is slightly different, but just all sorts of athletics. I mean, even just marathon runners, it's like, oh, I can eat whatever I want because I run a marathon a day. It's like, well, not really. I mean, you're not gaining weight, but it's not a healthy thing.
Well, and one of the things that I try and drive home whenever I'll get the question from people often. I've plateaued. I'm not losing weight. I've been doing keto. What am I doing wrong? And first off, I'm not a doctor or anything like that. I'm just a knucklehead that's got a cooking channel.
You got to put the what do you call it? The disclaimer.
Yeah,
this is not medical advice.
Yes,
I am not a registered dietitian. I am not a whatever you want to put in here.
In fact, but putting that disclaimer, I think, actually gives you more credibility in the keto world.
YouTube, this is not a what do you want to call it? Medical advice. Seek professional medical advice. This is empirical data.
So fortunately, though, my medical advice is more psychological advice, which is what you're doing wrong is caring about weight. Weight is the side effect, in my opinion, of keto. Mm-hmm. It's how you feel. It's how your joints start feeling. It's how you're able to start getting off of medications, get off of blood pressure medications, get off of, acid reflux medications, get off of pain medications. Your thoughts start becoming clearer. It's like turning back the clock. It truly, in my opinion, has been the fountain of youth for me. I feel better than I have in 25 years.
Yeah, I mean, by the same token, it's not a panacea, though. I mean, it's one of those things where people ask me, like, hey, I want to lose weight, I want to do keto. I tell them not to do keto because it is so restrictive that I think a lot of people, when they come off the wagon, they come off hard. Like, you have to do it for reasons other than to lose weight. The reason it works so well is because by essentially eliminating an entire type of what are carbs called? Group of macronutrients. It makes things really easy. And a lot of times people are in the situation they are because they are eating all the French fries, they are eating the hot sourdough baguettes, like the entire thing, or eating all the pizza every day, and they don't realize how much they're actually consuming and just all sorts of stuff. You get rid of that stuff, it's like, well, now you got meat, cheese, and vegetables. Like, okay, well, that naturally itself is going to make you healthy. I mean, but it's not for everybody. Some people work better on carbs. Some people just don't work on keto. Like me, myself, I tend to be a little bit more carbs in keto just because my body runs better on it. I mean, especially if you're doing any sort of athleticism. I mean, if you need those fast reaction times, like, even the studies have shown, like, keto is not necessarily going to work for you because you don't have that fast glucose injection into your muscle stuff, whatever those medical terms are. But yeah, I mean, for most people, it'll help them get on the right path. But if the people who see it as the panacea, I don't know. I don't think it's a long-term solution for them until they realize that it doesn't have to be, and they can figure out what works for them. That's just my non-medical, empirical
disclaimer. So how far away do you think you are from the French fry? Or whatever we're going to call it, freedom fry? Dennis fry?
Yeah,
Thai fry?
It's really close. I think it's really close. I have some things to try, some more experiments, and I know people are going to hate if some of the ingredients I put in there are things that end up being in the final recipe. It might end up being more on the low carb realm or the keto if you're willing to sacrifice a couple calories or carbs here and there. But I'm kind of going back to the genres of cooks. I'm really pragmatic in my cooking. Like if you were to put me in a sort of group of people, it would definitely be Asian cooking. It's like, oh, here's one knife that does everything. Here's one pot that does everything. Just do it by feel. I don't know. Add some more salt. The precision when it comes to cooking is not there for me. It's more of when you're baking and stuff. But other than that, it's just pragmatic. Like I said, I tend to be little more carbs than keto. So to me, it doesn't really bother me. I'll just drink more coffee, eat less.
So
like I'm doing now.
Tell me if this describes you as well. I don't know that I'm as pragmatic as you, just because I there's the mad scientist aspect of me that likes trying out new ingredients, things I've never had before, combinations I've never tried before. But I'm very much a cook by taste sort of person and not a measuring person. So when it comes to that's what happens 6 days a week. But then there's the one day that I need to make a recipe and record everything. And very often that's a challenge, just because I'm trying to work, I made something, I totally pulled it out of my butt, in terms of the recipe. And, you're going along, you're making it, you taste something, you're like, okay, it needs a little bit more brightness. Throw in some champagne vinegar. Okay, taste it again. All right, now what's the problem? And, you're trying to hit that right flavor profile. And you haven't measured anything. You had a couple glasses of wine while you're making it, and now that recipe is lost.
Yeah, I've learned the hard way to write things down, and even then my notes are still bad, because I go like, oh yeah, I'll remember I added this much amount of vinegar, and then I add a little bit more, and then you go, shit, that's the we'll have to bleep that out. Then it's to be like, crap, okay. That's I knew I added something, but what did I add? Like, how much of that? You just can't replicate it. So now you spend the next 4 hours trying to remember how much of a teaspoon you added. You remember you forgot that other ingredient. Like on the pizza recipe, I always forget the gelatin. Always. I'm like, oh crap, I have to go back and add the well, that's like, about 1 day a week is when I get the chance to actually work on things. Other than that, it's not glamorous. It's a lot of eating eggs and cheese. You're like, what do you eat? You must eat really well. It's like, actually I don't. It's kind of like, I don't know, do you know any professional chefs?
No.
So
not on a close basis.
I've known a lot in my life on a close personal basis, and you would think they eat really well. They probably eat the most unhealthy out of everybody that you could ever think of. You look at their fridge; it's literally beer and cold pizza. They don't, because they're so busy cooking that they don't. When they get off work, like, they don't want to see food. They don't. So what's the easiest thing is you pick up to go or frozen pizza at 3 a.m. or anything like that. So I feel like it's just by the same token. We don't eat as good as people think we do. Because it takes a lot of work, and you're so mentally exhausted from coming up with a recipe. It's like, I'm just gonna have.
I actually do eat pretty good.
I wish I had more time.
Because I love cooking. Now the problem is, I am starting to burn out a little bit. There's too much going on between trying to film and family obligations, and I got outside the day after ignoring my garden. My garden looks like a scene out of Mad Max. It looks like a wasteland, and I got out and was weeding today, and I felt this combination of happiness being out in the sun and actually getting some vitamin D and a little bit of color. I'm not so Wisconsin pasty white at the moment, but it was a combination of the happiness to be out there in the sun, in the garden, the physical exertion of it all. Just, there's something about the tiredness you feel after an afternoon of gardening that's just, you feel this sense of accomplishment. But at the same time, a little bit overwhelmed. It's like, all right, I still got, probably 4 days worth of work to do to get this garden in shape. And, I don't have a cooking video prepared for tomorrow. What do I do?
Yeah. We've talked about that before. It's a never-ending thing. There's no 9 to 5 type of thing when you do this, especially if you do it full time. It's constant.
Once you start, there's no real pumping the brakes.
Yeah, and I think I mentioned this to you before, but Matt Diavelli, who's a pretty big YouTuber, he talks about how he has anxiety attacks. He goes, this is it. I have to keep doing this. Like there's you can't stop. There's no retirement. There's no I'm going to take a week off. It's you literally can't stop. Or the algorithms start to hate you and all sorts of stuff.
The algorithm hates me right now. The algorithm has been hating me since about February. It's brutal.
It's an interesting thing. It's there's no way to figure it out because it is just machine learning. So it's it's an interesting thing. I had to take a step back. I was doing weekly videos, but to do my level of stuff, I can't. There's no way.
You know, it's you're leading into almost what was going to be my last question for you. So Elton Brown, you and I have both had our viewers compare us to Elton Brown. I think, you know, sort of the kitchen science. I think you also bring some of the theatrical element that he had in Good Eats. You know, he quit, was it after 7 seasons? Or do you remember how many seasons? Was it more than that? 11?
I think it might have been more than that.
And I recall someone asking in one of his podcasts, why'd you stop? And he said it just got to be too much trying to outdo himself every episode. You know, you do an episode and you're like, oh my gosh, this is the best thing I've ever done. Now next week I got to do the next best thing I've ever done. Do it better. And with the effort that you put in to your videos, the different camera angles, the cut scenes, all of that stuff, do you ever start feeling that?
Yeah. All the time. I mean, it's very cyclical in terms of how it works. Since I've not slowed down, but since I've had to slow down my output, I'll post a video and then it's the next week figuring out what the story is for the next one. This is all even outside of even the recipe development. Just what's the story that goes with it? What is entertaining? What's an engaging story? And it kind of leads down this really dark path of depression of like, what am I going to do? And like you get to Friday, Saturday. I mean, there's been times where I just don't get out of bed. I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to do. And it's when it was like, this isn't good. But then the moment strikes you to go, oh, that's it. And it's like a clap or a snap, and it all just comes flooding in, and you write it out and you storyboard it. And it's all, I mean, it's a heartache as I'm filming it. And there's always that point where it's never finished. You just have to publish it. But
George Lucas had a line like that. You know, he says movies are never done; they're just released.
Yeah, it's 100%. I mean, and one of the other things too is, you know, there's the story you write, there's a story you film, and there's a story you edit. There's been so many. Most of my videos have a storyline, and when I get to filming, I either part of it, like for the pasta video, I want to go to the store and buy lupin flour. I went to 5 different stores, couldn't find it. Well, got to write that part out of the story. So now what I do? Now I've written this whole thing into the story, and I have to write it out. And how do I change this entire thing and change my filming? And now I'm 3 days out from when I need to start editing because I only have so much time to work on. And it's trying to one up yourself, because even if you match the same quality, you feel like you've let yourself down and let the audience down, because you always want more. And I've had a lot of people tell me, like, just need to make shorter videos. Like, stop with this nonsense. Like, I don't know anything better now. I don't know any different. Like, I don't have it in me to make that 1 minute. Oh, here's the 2 ingredient easy lasagna. Like, I just can't do that.
No bake.
I can't.
You forgot no bake.
Yeah, no bake. No bake, 2 ingredient easy lasagna. I can't do it to myself. I can't do it to the people who watch, and it would hurt my soul.
Don't expect any TikTok videos from Black Tie Kitchen.
You can tell great stories and stuff on TikTok, but it's not my format. That's one of the gripes I have with YouTube is them going to the shorts and all that stuff. It's like, that's great, but I mean, this is for longer form content. It's not the 30-second 45 hacks to make eggs in your microwave type of I mean, there's a place for that, but it's not for me.
Well, speaking of long format, I think we're bouncing up against the wall in terms of optimal podcast length. So once again, this was a blast. I'm glad we were able to spend a little bit of time together, and now let our I was going to say fans. That's always a weird word for me. Subscribers. Let our subscribers and viewers in on our conversations, and hopefully they enjoyed it, because I'd like to keep doing this. And I don't know what the cadence should be. If it should be every other week, every third week, once a month, we'll figure that out. Oh, and we got to name it too.
That too.
So let's just throw out the challenge to our mutual subscribers / viewers. And if you're not a subscriber to Dennis's channel, I'm going to include a link down below in the description, assuming you're watching this and not listening to it. Get out there, watch some of his videos. But if you've got an idea for what we should call this podcast, let us know. I don't know if there's any prize other than just recognition.
We'll find something.
I got some really awful keto brownie mix from Superfat that I could send to the winner.
It'd be like the box of BS that the guys who made Cards Against Humanity. Did you ever see that?
No. I've played Cards Against Humanity.
They sold a box of BS. That was it. It was something like $10, and people got it, and they opened it up, and it was a box of bullcrap. Like, it was legit. Literally, and they said it. This is what it is. And
I'm surprised you can ship that through.
I know. You'd think you'd be some sort of
USPS.
agricultural. There's a
Some
lot of
warning label you got to put on there.
Yeah, potentially. But.
All right, so I guess we'll say goodbye. I'm going to go back to my podcast and just close things out. But if you want to investigate also, like, is there an audio place we can put this? Can we put this on iTunes or some other source?
Yeah, it may take a little bit, but it's doable.
Yeah, I mean, for those people who are driving or whatever, at some point people will start going back to work.
Yeah, hopefully the world goes back to normal.
All right, well, Dennis, thank you so much for your time, and we'll talk to you soon.
It's my pleasure. See you later.
So thanks for sticking around to the end of the video. As Dennis and I mentioned, we don't have a name for this podcast yet, and we'd like to have a name for this podcast. So if you've got a great idea for this podcast's name, put it down in the description below. Dennis and I will look through your suggestions and pick a winner. If there's a title that is given to us multiple times, we'll pick whoever came up with it first, and we'll come up with some sort of prize or perk or something, hopefully, that winner finds is cool. But I think that's about it for this podcast. I need to get back to my garden, so thanks for watching.